So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Decentralized. It's a real pleasure being here for the second consecutive year in Athens, okay? Accidentally this week, aside from celebrating Decentralized, we're also celebrating the first 50 years of the internet. Such a fantastic technology. It changed our life drastically, okay? However, it also underpinned the existing legacy structures centered around the central control of governments and authorities. Today, innovative technology coupled with digitally savvy users and the digital economy is also testing the mantle of existing financial services regulation. And the financial services industry is also morphing because of this new innovation. Which leads me to Fintech. Financial services innovation through technology. So we have financial services, Fintech, riding on AI, IoT, blockchain, DLT, okay? Riding on convergence of these technologies, riding on the use of digital channels, okay, on smartphones, and innovating itself. So we have operators innovating themselves, creating new business models. We also have regulators embracing these new technologies, pushing on operators to enhance on this new value enabler. If, for example, we see the FSS, which is the Singaporean authority, the South Korean authority. I was hearing Singapore, the South Korean authority. They are embracing Comtech, RegTech, and SupTech using AI and big data to regulate existing financial services providers, specifically with AI. AI is such an important force in every industry, undisputed. And it will play also a pivotal role in the financial services industry. Operators are already tapping into AI, reinventing their business model, making sure that their business is less risky. It has less financial bearing. It has less cost. It is more customized, okay? It is more directed towards the consumers. And an example of this innovation is definitely robo-advisors. Robo-advisors. The automation of financial services, central financial services within the financial services industry. It's an industry which is led by technology and where the US is practically leading the pack. It has a massive potential, disruptive potential. If we see certain statistical data, particularly from Deutsche Bank, this industry started in 2013 with approximately 2.3 billion assets held by these robo-advisors, bots, software, okay? So it can be an ETF, totally run by a robo-advisor. And it ended up in 2017 with 800% growth. So we're looking at 20 billion worth of assets in dollars. But that doesn't stop there. Business Insider estimates that by 2020, that figure will rise up to $1.1 trillion. So this is an industry which will definitely have a lot of input, which will definitely disrupt the existing financial services industry. However, as I said before, this industry is predominantly based by automation. What is automation? Automation is a simple function, if you look at it. It's a simple function deriving from software, code. As much as blockchain is a function deriving from software, code. As much as AI is a function deriving from software, code. And it can have different tastes, flavors. So you can have automation without intelligence, where to a certain extent the software acts on predetermined inputs, triggers, rules, procedures, which are coded in the software by the human. This automation is very, very similar to what we call RPA, robotic process automation, where this process replaces the mundane tasks and functions of normal humans. It disintermediates, okay, the human function. However, then we have another taste, which is more pervasive, which has more potential. And there is where intelligence comes in, where the software, the autonomous software, has also autonomy, the capacity to decide without human trigger, the capacity to assess a situation, okay, to learn from the situation, to determine the outcome of a situation without human intervention. And this poses existential questions even to the existing regulatory structure, to the existing laws. As a matter of fact, this is something which regulators, even the European Commission, is currently looking at. Now, when we have intelligence, we're leveraging on a data-intensive economy. So we have big data, we have machine learning, okay? We have deep learning. So there, this software, to decide to be autonomous, will need data, where data becomes extremely important to feed, okay? To feed the software, where the software itself will generate data which other software may use, where we already have legislation like GDPR, it was mentioned before, the PSD2, which will fuel further data through open API interfaces, okay? Where in the future, you will have your mobile phone, okay, with AI, which may be your personal advisor, robo-advisor, without the intervention of any other human or company. So there it is total disintermediation through technological innovation. As I mentioned before, this is something which is challenging the existing status quo. Status quo with regards to regulation, status quo as well with regards to the regulatory function of certain authorities. So we have authorities like Australia, we have authorities like China, in Asia, we have authorities as well like South Korea, Hong Kong, America, UK. In Europe, we had authorities like the Italian authorities, French, Spanish authorities, German, Netherlands, all looking at this phenomenon. We had DBA issuing guidelines. We had EIOPA issuing guidelines as well. We had ESMA issuing 2 sets of guidelines in 2012 and 2018. However, regrettably, all these guidelines are very static in their approach. They look at what we call, in legal principles, parity, functional equivalence, technology neutrality. So to a certain extent, they don't tap into this new innovation, into the new perils which might be brought forward because of autonomy of softwares. They just look at MiFID, so product placement, governance issues, accounts access through PSD, automated decision process through GDPR, which to a certain extent is not enough because there are no audits, okay? So they're looking at a very static approach. They don't take into account transparency requirements. Whether the software is safe, whether the software will create bias, whether the software can be manipulated, okay, towards a particular outcome, whether the software is free from bugs. When we're moving into an automated world with few or no human intervention, you're just relying on the software. These guidelines, the existing legislation, don't tackle that. And that is a massive problem. Because automation will disintermediate the human. And regulation always regulated the manager, the employee, and the human. So there we need to make sure that aside from regulating the services, because technology and regulation will not stop, they will evolve, we need to tap as well on something which is changing. We need to shift. So we need to monitor the technology. We need to make sure that the technology is auditable. So we need to create criteria for auditability. We need to make sure that the technology is safe. And how do you do that? Eva before was mentioning sandboxes. Regrettably, even sandboxes, we have a multitude of sandboxes. Every member state, every country has issued sandboxes, verging from every point of the globe. We should think about an innovative way of having a sandbox. A thematic sandbox, okay? A sandbox which is multi-sectorial, where you have a financial services authority, where you have a technology authority, where you also have a data protection authority, particularly with such draconian legislation as GDPR, where altogether they test the input functions of the software, they test the blueprint, they make sure that the software is apt for use, and they make sure that the software is in line with the services requirement. And that would be the remit of the Financial Services Authority. So what are we after? We're after creating governance. We're after creating transparency. We're after creating liability factors as well when it comes to software, particularly when the human will not be there. So you'll be judging the output function on the software. And nonetheless, you still need to have trust in that particular agent. And trust needs to come from regulatory inputs. So even the regulatory focus will need to evolve, will need to change. And unless the technology is tapped not on a technology-neutral ambit, but specifically on the problem which it might arise. That trust might be eradicated even going forward. Thank you.